hope everybody's having a good Friday. Huh. Ooh. Boy, that's a really boring shot with that curtain closed, isn't it? Oh. My wall is a bit of a mess. I hope everyone forgives and forgets. We're just kind of waiting on Kitty Cat to get here. Yeah, so it's a beautiful day. I got this month's video about 50% done, I would say. So that's good because it's supposed to be up a week from today. So, we're digging into nihilism this month. Does life have meaning, and if so, why? You know, that kind of just lighthearted, happy-go-lucky stuff is what we do around here. Featuring Britt Hartley from No Nonsense Spirituality. She is an atheist spirituality coach, which okay. Oh, Kitty Cat's here. Good. Hello.
Hello.
How you
Just
doing?
getting set up here.
Good. Looking good. How's it going?
Oh, of course I moved it. Hold on. There we go.
You got it. I was just telling the Void about this week's video. You know?
Who?
The Void.
The boy?
The Void.
Oh, the Void. I'm like, the boy?
No.
I'm like, what boy? Which
No, we have there's someone here. Hi, someone. There was no one watching, but I was just talking about next week's video to Bill Stace.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because
I was just trying to get it set up because I had to, because I know that it's weird that it doesn't go the long way, so I had to set it up the right way.
Wow, and all of a sudden we have 11 people. Wow, this week on the next week's video, we're doing about nihilism. So be sure and tune back in for that. Next week, I'm doing my video is about nihilism. You know, does life have meaning, and if so, why? You know, like, and if not, why? You know, spoiler, I'm not in favor of nihilism. I think it's very destructive.
Nihilism is not good.
No. But like, this lady is so insidious with the way that she portrays it as just kind wisdom. Like, we're just accepting the way things are and we're learning to deal with it together. And I'm just like, wow.
That's copium. That's not
dark.
nihilism.
It is. It's dark.
Yeah, nihilism is like dark. Yeah, dark is a good word.
Yeah. But she's this really soft-spoken, sweet little blonde lady presenting these ideas. So it's like sort of, you know, counterintuitive in that, like, she makes them, you have this tendency to go, oh yeah, wow. You know, when she talks. And the more I listen to her, hi people, the more I listen to her, the more I'm just like, this is dreadful.
Well, I mean, if she's a soft-spoken, nice lady and she says that it's just taking a seat back and seeing how things, does she realize that's not nihilism?
No, it's accepting meaninglessness. You know.
Yeah.
And that's what she's talking about.
I mean, I think saying that it's accepting meaninglessness is kind of like way too general of what nihilism really is.
Okay, well, we're talking specifically about the existential elk and the work of someone called Peter Zappa.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, give me more. Don't be so general. Give me more.
Well, the existential elk is this idea of, okay, this metaphor made me laugh out loud the first time I really conceived of what it is he's trying to say, because it's that dumb to me. But The idea is that there was this ancient species of elk, right? Whose antlers, eventually became too big and pretty and ornamental for them to like live.
What?
Right. And I'm like, okay, first of all, human beings might have had a hand in the extinction of this particular elk. Secondly, it was a megafauna that went out at the extinction of the last ice age with all the other megafauna. But never mind any of that. The idea is that their antlers are analogous to human consciousness, and that our existential dread is these giant antlers that we cannot carry, And I'm just like, that is the most just emotionally manipulative bullshit that
That's
I
so
have
weird.
ever. Yeah, it is, right? And you're like it relies upon you feeling bad for this animal. It is an emotional appeal that makes no damn logical sense, but
Yeah.
it was written by a Norwegian guy in the 1930s, so it has to be deep.
No, it's not though. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, and The Last Messiah is even better. He has another essay called The Last Messiah, where he thinks that the last Messiah will be the one who tells humanity the truth, that existence is pointless, and convinces us all to stop breeding and essentially lay down and die. And I'm just like, wow, that's.
Did you go through any of Nietzsche's work?
Oh, she brings him up.
I know, but I said not her. You have you?
Me personally, I have tried to read it a couple of different times through the years. I don't sit down and read much because I don't have that time in my life.
No, I was just curious because like he's got his old he does incorporate lots of nihilistic not sentiment but like reactions and how to actually diverge from nihilism himself.
Right. Like there's some comparison made between this Zappa character and Nietzsche in her video. So that's one of the reasons I picked her, is because she's very well read.
Yeah.
But like, apparently Nietzsche's idea is that, you can rise above and create your own meaning. And, that's like an existential kind of thing that obviously nihilists don't agree with that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, because like Nietzsche, yeah, exactly. He has like the Uberman, right? Where you can actually focus all that, because it's nihilism is just like kind of like an existential crisis, and there's a way to get out of that so that there is meaning because you created it, right?
Right. But according to Zappa, anyway, it's all code. Are you certain about something? No, you're not. Are you happy about something? No, you're not. It's all just denial of the void, which for some reason is perceived in this philosophy as being more real than anything else.
It's not a void, it's you giving up.
Yeah.
If there was no meaning, then the way that nihilism creates this sort of very depressive like stance and almost like sociopathic stance to the world wouldn't occur.
Right. No, it's the idea that I keep coming back to in the creation of this video is that he was unhappy and therefore he was positing that happiness does not actually exist.
But it does. It can.
Right. No, some people are certain about things. Some people do enjoy a day or two in their lives, like.
Yeah. Exactly. Like why?
And it's really interesting.
I'm really interested in watching that video just because.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting making it.
Being nihilistic before. I don't know if you have.
No, but I can see why
people have. But my stance is that it's not being realistic doesn't make me a nihilist. It just gives you like it makes you so you don't have copium. Whereas in like you're just pretending so you don't have to deal with it. You need to deal with shit and then learn when you deal with that, sit with it for a moment, you have the ability to have the appropriate response to attack that. Right? If something is like existentially and externally, really like grand and feels really burdenish and heavy on you, you have to deal with it first before and see it for what it is before you can move on to the next step. To say that, oh, might as well just sit back and do nothing is just so lazy. Don't be so lazy.
Intellectually, it is. Yes, I agree. There is no meaning. I give up. It's just intellectually lazy. And then this guy Zappa has the audacity to turn around and accuse anyone who believes in anything of the same. And I'm just like, sure, right.
You should take off some of these bots. I don't know who Asher Arlisse is.
Right, yeah. They're not being very nice.
Remove people, right?
Yeah, I guess I could. I was just ignoring it.
Because, I mean, that's obviously just... Or, say, you are so annoying, please shut up. How about leave? Why are you here then?
Right, yeah. It's been there for several minutes. I've just been ignoring it.
All right.
Yeah. Troll's gonna troll, what am I gonna do? Stop them?
I think a lot of the time they're bots. A lot of these, because there's no point. Why
and it doesn't matter. That's what I'm saying. I don't care. If it's a bot or a person, I'm paying it no mind. Yeah, because I just the idea that having certainty about anything is code. And she goes through it in some detail. So far, we're at about 40 minutes in length on this particular video. Oh, yeah, that's right. I was going to say, and paradigm shifting. She seems to be, in a lot of ways, referencing the idea that you can, shift paradigms and that somehow it makes that none of those paradigms have any objective meaning. And I found myself having to ask the question, objective in what way? He talks about how she references how your meat suit wants to live, and that's the only reason that you go on living. And I'm like, wait a minute, your meat suit wants. Who are you? Who are you that is doing the thinking then? If you are not the meat suit, and you don't identify with that, what are you, an immortal soul? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, so
there's a whole lot of Judeo-Christian shit just baked into this philosophy. The more you pick at it,
you found yourself a good old postmodernist, because that's totally exactly where that person lies in.
Well, right, but it's just so interesting how postmodernism is such an obvious reaction, inverse, reverse press of Judeo-Christian values. It's so weird.
What it does, it's and why it was so pervasive in universities was definitely a motivated perception that was, I think, consciously integrated, embedded in university to get people to think that way, because it leaves you doing nothing. It leaves you without any sort of tools, commitment to do anything about your situation.
No, and it's funny because writing taught me this.
An elite class would want you to be. So you're just complicit in it.
No, it's just so funny because writing taught me this, is that limits can set you free.
Yeah.
Because you sit down, you look at a blank piece of paper, you're like, I don't know what to write about. And then somebody gives you a prompt, and all of a sudden you have a fenced garden to play in. And you have these limits that set around it and make a shape that you can then fill in. Writing taught me this. But yeah, it's called structure. Hello.
Well, actually, this is a good segue to The Death of Nature.
Yeah.
Were you reading a chapter, or were you able to get to that or not?
Just no, curious. I'm sorry. I did not.
That's okay.
This week. I've had quite a week. Oh my god.
I didn't get to it either. Because I was going to read a chapter 2, but I never got to it. I've read this before though. But anyways, the reason I just wanted to see where you were at. The reason why I brought that up, it's a good segue, is because of the idea between the differences between materialism or historical materialism and mechanical theory. Because the way that postmodernists, which a lot of them claim to be Marxist, a lot of them supposedly know all this shit about that, have no concept of materialism, because they actually believe in the meat suit idea. Okay, but a materialist theory suggests this, that there is a material reality to everything. Okay, so what is the motivation behind your thought process of it being a meat suit if you're the reason why you are able to think and conceive and all that is because of your meat suits. Like, you are your body. Your material body has created that thought, even to have that thought. Like,
Right.
that's that, right? And so to
Mhm.
think that you're like disassociated and, from that, and, I like that they're two separate entities or whatever, is the weirdest, most neoliberal sort of ideology and perception. I swear.
Cartesian dualism makes no sense for nihilists.
Is what?
Cartesian dualism, where you have the body and the soul, where you're
Yeah.
like split into. For a nihilist, that makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
To
But
reference that, so ridiculous.
what do you mean?
Okay. If you're talking about my meat suit wants blah, who is speaking?
Well, yeah, exactly.
It's
But the
ridiculous.
idea that you're separated from your body and it's some sort of different entity than yourself, you are your body.
Right. And it implies some sort of separate part of yourself that is the soul or the mind that is somehow just perfectly discrete and separated from the meat suit, which what,
Stupid. I don't know how else to call it.
I don't know about that, but it's certainly logically inconsistent with nihilism.
If it's logically inconsistent to be that stupid, I just have to tell you, it makes no sense. And how that perception doesn't do anything for you either, and it makes no sense why people like embrace it so much is just mind-boggling to me. I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand that. Like, how that conception is even, you've even embraced it so much, because, yeah, like I said, illogical, and it's very complicit. It leaves you open to being complicit only to the system and what it's doing, and that you have no you have no motivation to interact with that and to change it yourself by changing the material conditions.
But to be fair, Cartesian dualism has been the assumed foundation of Western civilization for hundreds of years. So
yeah, I know. Well, we're gonna get into all that, aren't we?
Yay!
Because we're gonna go along the historical pathway to scientific revolution through industrialism until now.
Oh my god, this is gonna take forever. That's why you want to get into it. So hard, right?
The first chapter is kind of long.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I'm just gonna spark smoke here. But
okay, I may interrupt it. Do you mind if I interrupt and occasionally ask you a question? Like, I'll keep it to a minimum. I promise.
No, that's fine. Perfectly fine. Just interrupt away. I also printed pictures.
Ooh.
So I have the pictures for it, and colored as well for the chapter. I was able to get that done. I was able to get the ink.
You're not entirely of your body, just part. Okay. So what is the other part? And this is I've actually been looking into this recently because, and like matter and energy are both two forms of the same thing, for example. So chew on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm doing. I don't have a quick, quickie answer right now.
It's a different part. Okay, that's so funny. It's like your body is just a different part. No, your body is what produces that part. So your body, your brain, actually functions and makes thought and consciousness. That's where it comes from, your brain. You're not disassociated from your brain. You are your brain. That's how your brain is able to process things, is through thought. And that thought is telling you that the brain doesn't exist, or your brain is some material reality that you can disassociate from. No, you disassociate from it, you cease to exist in that part of thought.
Spirit, mind, conscious. Okay. See, this is what I'm talking about, because I've been looking for consciousness. Nobody knows what consciousness is, and it's my favorite pet mystery right now. But we're not here to talk about that right now. We're actually to talk about the other end of it. The brain is not
mechanistic theory, which is definitely damaging. Yeah.
Wow, now that is a bot. You see that? That's a bot. That's funny. Good for you, my dude. Good for you.
What is your mind? Your brain.
But this one is holding for review. Sorry, I meant even better.
Wow.
Okay, it might not be a bot. That's funny. Brain is not the mind. Right. And this is, we could debate all day. But we're here to talk about what the brain is, I think, something more closer to that.
No, we're not talking about how the brain is.
No,
That's
but it's closer to that. It's more about material theory,
we're talking. Yeah, we're talking about mechanical theory, which is
mechanical
the
theory.
idea of matter and turning the perception of seeing things as tools and machines. It's a machine. Mechanistic theory is looking at everything like a machine. Machines can be controlled, right? It's basically trying to it was became from it at first was organism sort of perception of the world as an organism, and how we interact with it that way as different sets of organisms together. And the scientific revolution turning that idea and perception into machinery.
Great.
Yeah.
And so, like, advertising, essentially,
Yeah.
right?
And turning everything to a machine. Whereas materialism is understanding that material reality, which is matter. Anything that has matter. So anything objective with matter is real. You can feel it, you can touch it, you can see it, you can smell it sometimes. But actual materialism is about the fact that external environment and yourself essentially is created from matter.
As opposed to idealism.
No, it's just matter. And then you have historical materialism, which is the theory where this comes from Marxism, is the theory of where the motivation of culture and society itself stems from material reality. So the matter of and reality, and you can actually in the now can actually understand and construct how society is formed through the material changes of the environment based on it and what that society does. And then you can link certain things like certain groups of period. There's always there's always a material basis for the reason why they are subordinated. And to find that link, you can understand how your society works and functions as it does. So it's a great way to critique capitalism and what it does to people because of the material conditions of those people, right? What is going on, what the motivations, and it's those linkages. That's how historical materialism works. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, and it's important, and I never mean to dismiss it. So please won't.
Love the subject. Yay.
Yeah.
Good job. At least you're not ingesting semen. I mean, that's sorry. It was great. That was something.
It was really, yeah. I've never heard of that.
I could see they should stay, especially.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of that as being good for meditation for you.
You just keep on trucking,
for
guys.
them, maybe,
So, all right,
very fun.
Let's do this. All right. Okay. So, first chapter is Chapter 1, Nature as Female. All right. The world we have lost was organic. From the obscure origins of our species, human beings have lived in daily, immediate, organic relation with the natural order for their sustenance. In 1500, the daily interaction with nature was still structured for most Europeans as it was for other peoples, like close-knit, cooperative, organic communities. Thus, it is not surprising that for 16th century Europeans, the root metaphor binding together the self, society, and the cosmos was that of an organism. As a projection of the way people experience daily life, organismic theory emphasized interdependence among the parts of the human body, subordination of individual to communal purposes in family, community, and state, and vital life permeating the cosmos to the lowliest stone. The idea of nature as a living organism had philosophical antecedents in ancient systems of thought, variations of which formed the prevailing ideological framework of the 16th century. The organismic metaphor, however, was immensely flexible and adaptable to varying contexts, depending on which of its presuppositions was emphasized. A spectrum of philosophical and political possibilities existed, all of which could be subsumed under the general rubric of organic. Nature as nurture, controlling imagery. Central to the organic theory was the identification of nature, especially the earth, with a nurturing mother, a kindly, beneficent female who provided for the needs in mankind in an ordered, planned universe. But another opposing image of nature as female was also prevalent: wild and uncontrollable nature that could render violence, storms, droughts, and general chaos. Both were identified with the female sex and were projections of human perceptions onto the external world. The metaphor of the earth as a nurturing mother was gradually to vanish as a dominant image as the scientific revolution proceeded to mechanize and to rationalize the worldview. The second image, nature as disorder, called forth an important modern idea that of power over nature. Two new ideas, those of mechanism and of the domination and mastery of nature, became core concepts of the modern world. An organically oriented mentality in which female principles played an important role was undermined and replaced by a mechanically orientated mentality that either eliminated or used female principles in an exploitative manner. As Western culture became increasingly mechanized in the 1600s, the female earth and virgin earth spirit were subdued by the machine. The change in controlling imagery was directly related to changes in human attitudes and behavior toward the earth. Whereas the nurturing earth image can be viewed as a cultural constraint restricting the types of socially and morally sanctioned human actions allowable with respect to the earth, the new images of mastery and domination functioned as cultural sanctions for the diminution of nature. Society needed these new images as it continued the processes of commercialism and industrialization, which depended on activities directly altering the earth: mining, drainage, deforestation, and asserting, which is grubbing up stumps to clear fields. The new activities utilized new technologies: lift and force pumps, cranes, windmills, geared wheels, flap valves, chains, pistons, treadmills, under and overshot water mills, fulling mills, flywheels, bellows, excavators, bucket chains, rollers, gears, and wheeled bridges, cranks, elaborate block and tackle systems, worm, spur, crown, and lantern gears, cams, and eccentrics, ratchets, wrenches, presses, and screws in magnificent variation and all in combination. These technological and commercial changes did not take place quickly. They developed gradually over the ancient and medieval eras, as did the accompanying environmental deterioration. Slowly, over many centuries, early Mediterranean and Greek civilization had mined and quarried the mountainsides, altered the forested landscape, and overgrazed the hills. Nevertheless, technologies were low level. People considered themselves parts of a finite cosmos, and animism and fertility cults that treated nature as sacred were numerous. Roman civilization was more pragmatic, secular, and commercial, and its environmental impact more intense. Yet, what? Oh,
Sorry, I'm coughing.
that's okay. Sorry. Yet, Roman writers such as Ovid, Seneca, Pliny, and the Stoic philosophers openly deplored mining as an abuse of their mother, the earth. With with the disintegration of feudalism and the expansion of Europeans into new worlds and markets, commercial society began to have an accelerated impact on the natural environment. By the 16th and 17th centuries, the tension between technological development in the world of action and the controlling organic images of the world of the mind had become too great. The old structures were incompatible with the new activities. Because so what she's doing is actually what historical materialism is. She's looking at what actually as like the environmental changes and actions and the way society is sort of functions in its imagery and the way that it starts to perceive the earth. You know what I mean?
Right, the way that we think about it and the way that we act are like a feedback loop.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Both the nurturing and domination metaphors had existed in philosophy, religion, and literature. The idea of dominion over the earth existed in Greek philosophy and Christian religion, that of the nurturing earth in Greek and other pagan philosophies. But as the economy became modernized and the scientific revolution proceeded, the dominion metaphor spread beyond the religious sphere and assumed ascendancy in the social and political spheres as well. These two competing images and their normative associations can be found in 16th century literature, art, philosophy, and science. The image of the earth as a living organism and nurturing mother had served as a cultural constraint, restricting the actions of human beings. One does not readily slay a mother, dig into her entrails for gold, or mutilate her body, although commercial mining would soon require that. As long as the earth was considered to be alive and sensitive, it could be considered a breach of human ethical behavior to carry out destructive acts against it. For most traditional cultures, minerals and metals ripened in the uterus of the earth mother. Mines were compared to her vagina, and metallurgy was the human hastening of the birth of the living metal in the artificial womb of the furnace, an abortion of the metal's natural growth cycle before its time. Miners offered propitiation to the deities of the soil and subterranean world, performed ceremonial sacrifices, and observed strict cleanliness, sexual abstinences, and fasting before violating the sacredness of the living earth by sinking a mine. Smiths assumed an awesome responsibility in precipitating the metal's birth through smelting, fusing, and beating it with hammer and anvil. They were often accorded the status of shaman in tribal rituals, and their tools were thought to hold special powers. Mm. The Renaissance image of the nurturing earth still carried with it subtle ethical controls and restraints. Such imagery found in a culture's literature can play a normative role within the culture. Controlling images operate as ethical restraints or as ethical sanctions, as subtle oughts or ought nots. Thus, as the descriptive metaphors and images of nature change, a behavioral restraint can be changed into a sanction. Such a change in the image and description of nature was occurring during the course of the scientific revolution. It is important to recognize the normative import of descriptive statements about nature. Contemporary philosophers of language have critically reassessed the earlier positivist distinction between the is of science and the oughts of society, arguing that descriptions and norms are not opposed to one another by linguistic separation into separate is and ought statements, but are contained within each other. Descriptive statements about the world can presuppose the normative. They are then ethic laden. A statement's normative function lies in the use itself as description. The norms may be tacit assumptions hidden within the descriptions in such a way as to act as invisible restraints or moral ought nots. The writer
That's
or
funny.
culture may
Now
not.
she's talking about like how I'm sorry. This is how
No,
you
no,
put theme in anything. I've been thinking
yeah,
about this a lot lately too. You just build something into the framework of stuff and so that it is assumed as a given and then you can build upon that and it's already in there and you don't ever have to say it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's like
if
what I was
something,
saying
and
about
if there was a necessity for commercialization and markets like that,
mhm.
you would have to change that imagery to align with that, so people are not disgusted, basically, right?
Right.
And
Well, when
so
you
that's
say a
kind of what.
necessity, I mean, what is that? What does that mean by necessity, right? Like, what are we talking about there?
Okay, so if you want to be able to do all your mining, do all your
Mhm.
extraction, exploitation, right, for
Right.
profit,
Right.
you're going to have to change that imagery of people that have in relation to Earth being alive,
Right.
and starting to have it machinery to make, and so that you can use it to make dead capital, basically, for profit for that. And you have to change the imagery so that people don't already, because of the language, the linguistic characterization of the description is makes them feel disgust. You have to turn it into machines. And so when you start to see things like machinery, you start to see it as a tool that is for
Mhm.
your use,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
people associate that, right? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Terrified.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Where was I? Okay, yes. As she will explain here too. The writer or culture may not be conscious of the ethical import, yet may act in accordance with its dictates. The hidden norms may become conscious or explicit when an alternative or contradiction presents itself. Because language contains a culture within itself, when language changes, a culture is also changing in important ways. By examining changes in descriptions of nature, we can then perceive something of the changes in cultural values. To be aware of the interconnectedness of descriptive and normative statements is to be able to evaluate changes in the latter by observing changes in the former. Not only did the image of nature as a nurturing mother contain ethical implications, but the organic framework itself as a conceptual system also carried with it an associated value system. Contemporary philosophers have argued that a given normative theory is linked with certain conceptual frameworks and not with others. The framework contains within itself certain dimensions of structural and normative variation, while denying others belonging to an alternative or revival framework. We cannot accept a framework of explanation and yet reject its associated value judgments, because the connections to the values associated with the structure are not fortuitous. New commercial and technological innovations, however, can upset and undermine an established conceptual structure. New human and social needs can threaten associative normative constraints, thereby demanding new ones. While the organic framework was for many centuries sufficiently integrative to override commercial development and technological innovation, the acceleration of such changes throughout Western Europe during the 16th and 17th centuries began to undermine the organic unity of the cosmos and society, because the needs and purposes of society as a whole were changing with the commercial revolution. The values associated with the organic view of nature were no longer applicable. Hence, the plausibility of the conceptual framework itself was slowly but continuously being threatened. In order to make this interpretation of cultural change convincing, it will be advantageous to examine the variations of the organic framework, focusing on its associated female imagery and pointing out the values linked to each of the variants. It will then be possible to show how, in the context of commercial and technological change, the elements of the organic framework, its assumptions, uh, and values about nature could be either absorbed into the emerging mechanical framework or rejected as irrelevant. The Renaissance view of nature and society was based on the organic analogy between the human body or microcosm and the larger world or macrocosm. So micro, macro, right? Views, levels. Within this larger framework, however, a number of variants on the organic theme were possible. The primary view of nature was the idea that a designed hierarchical order existed in the cosmos and society corresponding to the organic integration of the parts of the body, a projection of the human being onto the cosmos. The term nature comprehended both the innate character and disposition of people and animals, and the inherent creative power operating within material objects and phenomena. A second image was based on nature as an active unity of opposites in a dialectical tension. A third was the Arcadian image of nature as benevolent, peaceful, rustic, deriving from Arcadia, the pastoral interior of the Greek Peloponnesus, whatever that means. Each of these interpretations had different social implications. The first image could be used as a justification for maintaining the existing social order, the second for changing society toward a new ideal, the third for escaping from the emerging problems of urban life. Drawing on the work of literary critics and historians of science and art, we could construct a spectrum of images of nature and delineate their associated value systems. Mm. Literary images. The Chaucerian and typically Elizabethan view of nature was that of a kindly and caring provider, a manifestation of the god who had imprinted a designed, planned order on the world. This order imposed ethical norms of behavior on the human being, the central feature of which was behavioral self restraint in conformity with the pattern of the natural order. Each organic creature was responsible for maintaining its own place and expressing itself within the natural order, and was a necessary part of the whole, but was not the whole itself. The Elizabethan first had to understand his or her own place dictated by the cosmos and social order, and then to act in accordance with the traditional reason and restraint that would maintain the balance and harmony of the whole. This reverence for nature's law was expressed by Richard Hooker in 1593, quote, See we not plainly that obedience of creatures unto the law of nature is the stay of the whole world? End quote. And also, nature operated, quote, without capacity or knowledge, end quote, solely on the basis of her dexterity and skill as the instrument of God's expression in the mundane world. Whatever was known of God was taught by nature. God being the God being the author of nature, her voice is but his instrument. By her from him we receive whatsoever in sort we learn. Her nature is God's involuntary agent, a benevolent teacher of the hidden pattern and values God employed in creating the visible cosmos. Natura naturata, the natural creation. A somewhat less end quote. A somewhat less orthodox view saw her as creative force, a natura naturans, a soul with a will to generate mundane forms. In Shakespearean's tragedy King Lear, the king as human nature represented Renaissance man whose worldly existence was part of a larger patterned whole and of the contemporary hierarchical social order. His human nature symbolized the medieval Renaissance cosmos whose patterns must not be violated. Lear's nature was a composite structure of the qualities of benevolence, comfort, and generosity, dictating honor and charity in his own ethical behavior as father of the household, and reverence of his authority and wisdom on the part of his daughters. Lear's daughter Cordelia represented utopian nature, or nature as the ideal unity of the opposites, a second image of nature within the larger spectrum of the organic framework. She was strength and gentleness hewn as one, quote, passion and order, innocence and maturity, defenselessness and strength, daughter and mother, maid and wife, end quote. She represented simplicity and unity and the balance of the contraries. She was the mature integration of society and of nature as ideally reflected in the human being. She stood for unity, wholeness, and virtue, the utopian expression of human nature. Cordelia's nature was the human symbol of the New Jerusalem of the millenarian movements of the Middle Ages, the utopias of the Renaissance, and the religious sects of the subsequent Civil War period in England, which attempted to improve society. The dialectical image of nature, here symbolized by a woman, represented the impetus to move society forward toward a new ideal. Pastoral poetry and art prevalent in the Renaissance presented another image of nature as female, an escape backward into the motherly benevolence of the past. Here, nature was a refuge from the ills and anxiety of urban life through a return to unblemished golden age. Depicted as a garden, a rural landscape, or a peaceful, fertile scene, nature was a calm, kindly female, giving off her bounty. Against an idyllic backdrop, sheep grazed contently, birds sang melodies, and trees bore fruit. Wild animals, thorns, snakes, and vultures were nowhere to be found. Human beings meditated on the beauties of nature far removed from the violence of the city. The pastoral tradition had its roots in nostalgia for the Homeric Golden Age, for the uncorrupted Garden of Eden, and escape from the ills of the city. It echoed the poetic tradition of Virgil in 70 to 19 BC and Juvenal in 60 to 140 AD. Virgil wrote of spending old age, quote, in familiar streams and holy springs, end quote. Juvenal yearned for the rural town in which, quote, springs bubbling up from the grass, no need for windlass or buckets, plenty to water your flowers if they need it without any trouble, end quote. The Arcadia theme eulogized in the pastoral poetry of Philip Sidney in 1554 and Edmund Spenser in 1552 in his The Shepherd's Calendar appeared in many poetic and artistic settings in which nature was idealized as a benevolent nurturer, mother, and provider. The 16th century French painting, Saint Genevieve with her flock, depicts the Virgin surrounded by a flock of sheep within a protective stone circle on a hillside of trees and blooming flowers, well outside the city in the background. Here, the female image of nature and the Virgin, symbol of the earth spirit, are fused with the circular symbolism of order and protective encasement. In Lucas Cranach's painting, The Nymph of the Spring, in 1518, the female earth nymph rests in a bed of flowers while doves, symbols of peace, feed near the edge of a trickling stream and dear water on its farther bank. The Birth of Venus in 1482 and the Primavera in 1477 of Sandro Botticelli's portrayal of the Virgin in conjunction with the Earth Mother, who was covered with with a gown and wreath of flowers, both symbols of female fertility. In the 17th century, Nicolas Poussin and other landscape painters illustrated the transitory nature of the Arcadian experience by sometimes inserting a death's head into their works of art. But while the pastoral tradition symbolized nature as a benevolent female, it contained the implication that nature, when plowed and cultivated, could be used as a commodity and manipulated as a resource. Nature, tamed and subdued, could be transformed into a garden to provide both material and spiritual food to enhance the comfort and soothe the anxieties of men distraught by the demands of the urban world and the stresses of the marketplace. It depended on a masculine perception of nature as a mother and bride whose primary function was to comfort, nurture, and provide for the well-being of the male. So not always good, but true. In pastoral imagery, both nature and women were subordinate and essentially passive. They nurture but do not control or exhibit disruptive passion. The pastoral mode, although it viewed nature as benevolent, was a model created as an antidote to the pressures of urbanization and mechanization. It represented the fulfillment of human needs for nurture, but by conceiving of nature as passive, it nevertheless allowed for the possibility of its use and manipulation. Unlike the dialectical image of nature as the active unity of opposites in tension, the Arcadian image rendered nature passive and manageable. And we get our first image. So figure one, the nymph of the spring. So that's what we talked about. So that's what the image that that she was describing. Can you see that? Yeah, okay. Philosophical frameworks. In his Timaeus, Plato endowed the whole world with life and likened it to an animal. The deity framed one visible animal, comprehending within itself all other animals of a kindred nature. Its shape was round, since it had no need for eyes, ears, or appendages. Its soul was female, its origin and excellence prior to and older than the body, and made to be ruler and mistress of whom the body was to be the subject. The soul permeated the corporeal body of the universe, enveloping it and turning herself within herself. The earth, which is our nurse, was placed as the immovable center of the cosmos. For Plato, this female world soul was the source of motion in the universe, the bridge between the unchanging internal forms and the changing sensible temporal lower world of nature. The Neoplatoism of Plotinus in 204 to 270 AD, which synthesized Christian philosophy with Platoism, divided the female soul into two components. The higher portion fashioned souls from the divine ideas. The lower portion, natura, generated the phenomenon world. The 12th century Christian cathedral school of Chartres, which interpreted the Bible in conjunction with the Timaeus, personified Natura as a goddess and limited the power attributed to her in pagan philosophies by emphasizing her subservience to God. Nature was compared to a midwife who translated ideas into material things. The ideas were likened to a father, the matter to a mother, and the generated species to a child. In Platonic and Neoplatonic symbolism, therefore, both nature and matter were feminine, while the ideas were masculine. But nature, as God's agent, in her role as creator and producer of the material world, was superior to human artists, both in creativity and in ease of production. She was more powerful than humans, but still subordinate to God. An allegory 1160 by Elaine of Lille of the school of Chartres portrays Natura, God's powerful but humble servant, as stricken with grief at the failure of man, in contrast to other species, to obey her laws. Owing to faulty supervision by Venus, human beings engage in an adulterous sensual love. In aggressively penetrating the secrets of heaven, they tear Natura's undergarments, exposing her to the view of the vulgar. She complains that, quote, by the unlawful assault of man alone, the garments of my modesty suffer disgrace and division, end quote. Natura was a replica of the cosmos. Set in her crown as jewels were the signs of the zodiac and the planets. Decorating her robe, mantle, tunic, and undergarments were birds, water creatures, earth animals, herbs, and trees. On her shoes were flowers. Her torn tunic, indicative of the need to protect nature's secrets from misuse, exemplifies the rhetorical role of imagery. The specific morale of Ellen's allegory is that nature has no power to enforce her own laws. After the disobedience that resulted in the fall of Adam and Eve, unity in the created world can only be maintained by moral choices. Human reason must control human lust. Renaissance Neoplatonism illustrates the image of the macrocosm enlivened by the female soul. The Neoplatonic alchemist Robert Fludd, in 1574, pictured the world soul as a woman connected by her right hand to God, represented by the Hebrew tetragrammaton, or tetragrammaton, the four consonants JHVH, transmitted by a golden chain to the terrestrial world below. Figured. Yeah, come on. There you go. I want to make sure I can see that there. Okay. Natura was also pictured as a mother goddess Isis, her flowing hair drawn through a sphere representing the world, her mantle decorated at the top by stars and the bottom by flowers, and her womb by a half moon whose rays fertilize the earth. On the opposite ears are the sun and moon, representing the male and female principles in the natural world. In her left hand, she holds a pail, symbol of the flooding Nile, which irrigated the earth. And with her right, she shakes the sistrum, a rattle representing an unceasing constant motion and internal vigor of nature, which is... Ooh. The ancient philosophy of Aristotle, recovered in the 12th century, was also based on the organic theory of the primacy of internal growth and development within nature. In his Metaphysics, Aristotle defined nature, physis, as the, quote, source of movement of natural objects being present in them, either potentially or in complete reality. Each individual object could be explained by specifying four causes: material, the matter out of which it was made; formal, its shape or the arrangement of its parts; efficient, the moving force; and final, the purpose or ultimate end for which the object existed. In natural objects, as opposed to artificially created products, the material and efficient causes were unified such that the material substratum had its principle of motion or change within it. The material of a tree or a child caused its growth, whereas a table had to be produced by a builder. Motion, like growth, was the internal development of the potential toward the final form or actual existence of an individual being. A girl becomes a woman, a chicken develops into a hen. In nature, the end toward which an object developed was its form or shape. In artificial products, such as a house, the form was distinct from its purpose as a dwelling. Aristotle differed from the pre-Socrates, who defined nature in terms of a material substratum such as water, air, or water, which is Thales; air, which is Anaximenes; fire, Heraclitus. But he concurred with them in stressing the primacy of growth, change, and process in the natural world. He opposed Plato's dualism between imperfect appearances and pure perfect forms by asserting that the form existed in the individual object rather than as a separate transient level of reality. Aristotelian philosophy, while unifying matter and form in each individual being, associated activity with maleness and passivity with femaleness. Form reigned superior over dead, passive matter. Socially, Aristotle found the basis for male rule over the household in the analogy that, as the soul ruled the body, so reason and deliberation characteristic of men should rule the appetite supposedly predominant in women.
See,
Aristotle's
and I was going to
biological
say earlier when you were talking about how nature is supposed to be seen as being there to, soothe the men from the marketplace, and it's like, well, they're in charge of all of this, so it's all
yeah, well,
questionable.
yeah. Oh no, I think she said in the introduction, she's not saying that we should go back to that way of thinking because it
No, I know.
has its because it's also that sort of thinking was still controlled by men in certain areas where they create a subordination of the female, right? But it made
Right.
it natural, right?
Right.
But that was what actually led to mechanism.
And I just think letting men define nature was a mistake there. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. That's, I think that we can all agree. But see how, like, in different eras, the aspect of it subsumes to what they are intentionally doing and trying to posit that in, like, certain imagery and how it changes, right? But at least this was still in the place of the natural organic, right? And then you can see the shift in different eras as it historically goes on into mechanism, right? Which is like the end result being basically.
The end result being the destruction of ourselves and the planet, I guess. Right?
Yeah, basically. And you can see too how the imagery changes when it comes to the male female aspect too, and how it was sort of subsumed as male separate from the world and female, and that's together symbolized something that needed to be exploited, right? Because it needed to justify with imagery and their language what they what was going on, what they were planning and to do and stuff like that for technological advancement, that the mind themselves, they have the capacity for that thought because they want to justify it basically.
I've run into that in philosophy before, the idea that if you can have a thought, that means you should have that thought, which, like, no.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a dangerous idea. No.
Yeah.
Sometimes thoughts are just...
At the end of the day, you are... every person needs sustenance and a livable planet. So it will come back, as destructive. It's not that it's like a lot of people, I think, disassociate from themselves from nature. But that's like thinking of taking yourself as being the god of nature, like that you have the right, the inevitable right to do what you're doing, but you don't really, and you're gonna find that out when you die from it.
Right, and
you're dead. You are reliant on a living earth. You're not God.
Right. Yeah. And that separation of yourself is, like, delusional.
Mm-hmm. It is very delusional. It is totally. Okay, where was I? I read that part. Sorry.
One more thing. The more I find people, when I'm getting to know them, the more sunk they are into that idea, the more narcissistic they are.
Oh, it totally is. It's created a sort of... yeah, a natural just...
It's very self-aggrandizing because you have that discrete, secret, unblemished part of yourself that's eternal and connected to God and whatever. So, like, yeah, obviously you're separate from nature and have up in this high spot to, like, judge shit.
Yeah.
It's all just very self-aggrandizing, and I'm always suspicious of anything that's self-aggrandizing.
It's a way to try to justify what they should know to be unjustifiable, basically. But they're just so disassociated from the rest of their interactions with the outside external world and what that's caused. They don't even conceive that they are in, like, trouble. Like, they're basically, like, sawing off their own limbs and don't even realize it. Because, like I said, you are not God. You have your relation to you are nature yourself. You're not devoid from it. Hey,
sweet sea monster. Sweet sea monster is here. Your brain just makes thoughts. They don't mean anything sometimes. Right. I kind of think of it as like a bubbling pot, and sometimes those bubbles kick up some, residue from the bottom that bubbles up and you're like, oh, that's gross, But you just fish it out, and throw it away. You don't make it the meal, do you? That's ridiculous.
What was
Sorry. We've
so yeah,
totally
I'm just
lost
trying
the
to find
place
my
now.
where I yeah. Okay, I think I found it. Aristotle's biological theory viewed the female of the species as an incomplete or mutilated male, since the coldness of the female body would not allow the menstrual blood to perfect itself as semen. It's so funny. In the generation of offspring, the female contributed the matter or passive principle. This was the material on which the active male principle, the semen, worked in creating the embryo. The male was the real cause of the offspring. Quote, the female as female is passive and the male as male is active, and the principle of
Wow.
movement comes from him, end quote.
You see
Okay.
how they've gone all the way around to bend themselves over backwards to take reproduction from women? Fuck that
Yeah,
guy.
I know, right? Because they're trying to justify it because they want, yeah, but
Okay.
it doesn't justify it. It just makes your delusion and your fucking, yeah, even worse. Like it make your in disassociation even worse. But yeah,
Women don't really make babies. It only looks that.
yeah, and they're just very passive, even though they're the ones growing it.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just jealous that a pregnant woman is doing more work with her feet up than a man digging a ditch in cold dirt.
Yeah. Power and motion were contributed solely by the semen. The male supplied none of the matter from which the embryo developed. Quote, nor does he admit anything of such nature as to exist within that which is generated as part of the material embryo, but that he only makes a living creature by the power which resides in the semen. The female supplied the nutriment, the catamenia or menstrual blood, on which the qualities of the male could operate. See the idea of seeing them to operate? Yeah, it comes from this. The combination of semen with the menstrual blood was like the curdling of cheese, just as rennet acts by coagulating milk. The male contributed the movement necessary for the embryo to develop as well as the form it would take. Supposedly.
So how do you ever end up with girl children then? I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, here. Okay, hold on.
Oh, and you say you're doing chores to Sweet Sea Monster? That's fine. That's totally cool. That's what I do all the time.
Both the efficient and formal causes were derived from the male principle and were the active cause of the offspring. Nature, in her creative work, used the semen as a tool, just as the carpenter, through motion, imparted shape and form to the wood on which he worked. Since no material was ever transferred from the body of the carpenter to the wood, by analogy, the male did not contribute any matter, but rather the force and power of the generation. The Aristotelian theory of generation appeared at the basis of some alchemic I can't even speak alchemical theories to change base metals to gold or silver or to create the philosopher's stone, a substance thought to effect such a change. The qualities or form of the lowly metal must be removed, leaving the passive primary matter. The new, more noble form, the active male principle, was then introduced and unified with the base female matter to produce the new metal. Aristotelian ideas about human generation were also projected onto the cosmos. See, now they're projecting it onto it, right? Yeah. In the 16th century, the marriage and impregnation of the female Earth by the higher celestial masculine heavens was a stock description of biological generation in nature. The movements of the celestial heavens produced semen, which fell in the form of dew and rain on the receptive female Earth. A famous passage in On the Revolutions of the Celestial Spheres, 1543, by Nicholas Copernicus, reviver of the heliocentric hypothesis, draws on the marriage of the masculine heavens with the female Earth. Quote, meanwhile, the Earth conceives by the sun and becomes pregnant with annual offspring, end quote. Such basic attitudes toward male-female roles in biological generation, where the female and the Earth are both passive receptors, could easily become sanctions for exploitation, as the organic context was transformed by the rise of commercial capitalism.
Can I just make an addendum to say add what this does to like your psyche? Because
Yeah,
personally speaking, if the idea of passivity being linked with femininity just really, really always bothered me because I'm like not.
No, it's because it's
Passive.
not. Yeah, well, it's because
And
it's
so if
not
you're
real.
made, if you're not passive as a female, you are made to feel that there is something wrong with you.
Yeah,
And for
because
me,
that
that
projection
took
is
a.
necessary for that commercialization. So, you
Mhm.
know, and so it's like the reason why you always hate it, and why women usually do. This is why I hate to say it, but why trans men or female like trying to is to get rid of that so
That's
that
what I
they
was
can
just
be
about to
seen as
say.
human.
Mhm.
What?
That's what I was just getting at. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's obviously not natural. It's a projection of male ideas to explain and justify their commercial capitalist relations and markets and use
Mhm.
of
And the
exploitation.
exploitation of you as an individual. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how it functions on an individual level. So it's just interesting because this applies all the way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Um, a radical alternative to the hierarchical view that the female was inferior appeared in the monistic form of ancient Gnosticism, based, like Shakespeare's Cordelia, on the unity of the opposites and the equality of male-female principles. The transmission of Gnostic ideas of androgyny provided an alternative view of generation and carried with it more positive implications and
If there
attitudes toward nature and
is
female
there
in the
anything that makes you
Renaissance.
more suspicious that we might actually be better than them than their insistence on the equality thing?
Yeah, right. Um, But these ideas lay outside the mainstream of Western Christian culture. Gnostic texts available in the Renaissance had been preserved through extensive quotation in the polemical writings of the early church fathers who attempted to refute this doctrine. The Gnostic tradition was a body of texts written in the first 3 centuries AD, condemned as a heretical form of early Christianity. Centered in Heliocentric Alexandria, it synthesized Christianity with the spiritual teachings of Babylonia and Persia to the east, and Greece and Rome to the west. Gnosticism, stemming from knowledge, maintained an original unity of male female opposites in a transcendent God, but a dualism between God and the mundane world, between good and evil, between spirit and matter. By emanation of God produced a female generative principle which created angels and then the visible world. The light of God mingled with matter in the lower world. The religious goal of Gnosticism was otherworldly salvation through knowledge. In contrast to Orthodox Christians, some sects worshipped the serpent for inducing Eve to taste the fruit of knowledge, the beginning of Gnosis on earth. The coiled serpent biting its own tail symbolized the unity of the opposites, good and bad, and the cosmic metaphoric cycles. Some of the early Gnostic Christians who described God as androgynous prayed to both the Father and the Mother and interpreted the accounts of the creation of the first chapter of Genesis to mean that a male female God created man and woman in its image. In these interpretations, God was a dyad of opposites, existing in harmony in one being. The Divine Mother was named Wisdom or Sophia, a Greek translation of the Hebrew Chokmah. Wisdom was the creative power, self generating, self discovering in its own mother, its own father, its own sister, its own son, father, mother, unity, root of all things. Her wisdom was bestowed on men and women. Human nature, like God, consisted of a unity of equal male female principles. Evidence, but that's the thing, male female principles, right? You're you're still creating a dualism that way. You know what I mean? Um, Evidence for the appeal of Gnostic androgyny to women is indicated by their attraction to these heretical groups during the period 150 to 200 AD, when Christianity was struggling to gain its stature as a world religion. Here they could play important roles from which they had been excluded by Orthodox churches, including healer, evangelist, priest, prophet, and teacher. Gnostic philosophy and its assignment of equal importance to male and female principles and generation permeated many alchemic treatises. The Gnostic Trinity, Father, Mother, and Son, first appeared in a work of the 3rd or 4th century. Chrysopoeia, or gold making, attributed to Cleopatra. The Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus, a mythical alchemist to whom was attributed the Gnostic Corpus Hermeticum in 100 to 300 AD, emphasized the equality of the two great male and female principles in nature, the sun and moon. The sun is its quote, the sun is its father, the moon is its mother. Wind is carried in its belly, the earth is its nurse, end quote. In the Gnostic tradition and alchemy, many of the earliest alchemical treatises were either written by or attributed to women. Isis, Mary the Jewess, identified with Moses, his sister Miriam, Cleopatra, and Theosebia, sister of Zosimus, an alchemist of the 4th century AD. Quotes. Noticeable also is the importance given to women by the Hermetic alchemists. In Major's etching, the Virgin is, like her ancestor Eve, the instigator, and a woman is the alchemist's symbol of nature. He follows her tracks, which lead to perfection. It may be recalled that Magdalene and Sophia are the most important and active figures in the Pistis Sophia, and that the earthly incarnation of the Heavenly Mother is the main feature in the dogma of Simon Magus. Flamel's transmutation took place when his wife was present, and the Librum Mutus, an alchemist, tract. It is recommended that before starting the operation, the alchemist and his wife should kneel and pray before the oven. The union of the soul and spirit of the male and female essence has its counterpart in heaven. The sun is the father and the moon the mother. End quote. In Gnostic texts available in the 16th century, the Mother Sophia, or Aetnus, created the king or father, who in turn generated the 7 heavens. The mother produced 4 terrestrial elements after the pattern of the higher celestial elements. In some Gnostic interpretations, the archetype Adam was created androgynous and composed of 8 parts. For Paracelsus, the 8 Gnostic matrices were all mothers. Moreover, in contrast to Aristotle, he assigned equality to the male and female principles and sexual generation. Quote, when the seed is received in the womb, nature combines the seed of the man and the seed of the woman. Of the 2 seeds, the better and stronger will form the other, according to its nature. The seed from the man's brain and that from the woman's brain together make only one brain. But the child's brain is formed according to one which is the stronger of the 2 and becomes like this seed, but never completely like it. End quote.
See, and this is why I'm torn. Because on the one hand, death of nature, bad. On the other hand, genetics. We solved this one.
Well, see, that's the thing. You've already prescribed natural human behavior and separated them. That is where, what we don't need to do that, because that's already like a created idea of there is a behavior and separation that leads one to be one thing, and but dependent on the sex, and the other sex is dependent on the different characteristics, when really what you're talking about is just human characteristics, and behavior that we both have. And I can see how they're trying to say, well, the father, mother of the heavens, whatever, created a child with both characteristics. Well, that's great, but the thing is, you started with father and mother being separate already. Right? You've already
the assumption of
it started with the dualism at first. But that's you will have to give leeway, because of obviously this comes from their own culture, and then trying to find a different way to organize that in thought and imagery themselves, trying to equalize it. But that's what we do now with, we need equality. So that's almost like very, very similar. It's very liberal. Kind of think about it. But like, you started off on the wrong premise and basis, which is that dualism, right? That really isn't really dualism. It's just human behavior. Right.
Well, and it's, projecting our assumptions onto things that do not.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep doing that. I keep talking, getting all involved, and they forget.
Well, do we have a long ways to go yet, or?
Oh yeah.
Oh God. Okay.
If we need to stop and come back to it, we'll do a part 2. We can do that, right?
Oh yeah.
So we can do that because we still have quite a bit to go. Like I said, chapter 1 is really long.
Okay. Well, maybe we should sort of quasi plan on doing that then, because it's already quarter after 1, and I just want to point out though that next week is I'm supposed to have the video up, so I don't know if we can
Do you want to? Okay, yeah.
do both.
There's different natural like stops, like
Okay.
sections. They're just not grouped. So
Okay.
once I hit the middle section, and when I find that section, then we can stop there, and then we'll do the part 2 of chapter 1. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
sounds great.
All right.
Okay, now where was I again? Just give me a sec here. For some Paracelsians, the 8 parts of the Gnostic atom were divided into 4 celestial fathers and 4 terrestrial elements or mothers. Mothers provided astral semina that fertilized the female elemental matrices, which, activated by the central fire of the earth, rose up to receive the astral semina. For some alchemists, the philosopher's stone embodied the unity of the contraries, resulting from the conjunction of the 4 mothers and the 4 fathers. Scholar Ralph Cudworth noted in 1678 that the pagans, quote, called God male and female together, end quote, and that, quote, the Orphic theology calls the first principle hermaphroditic, or male and female together, thereby denoting the essence that is generative or productive is of all things, end quote. In alchemy, permeated by male-female dualism, the hermaphrodite Mercurius symbolized the androgynous unity of the opposites, the unification of male and female principles represented by the alchemical marriage of the sun and the moon, and by the union of the male mineral agent Mercury and the female materia prima or prime matter, resulted in a male-female hermaphrodite, which is in this figure. What we got here? Let's go see that. The tree symbolized the vegetative nurturing principle, the snake, the animated life-giving principle. The heat of the alchemic oven represented the male element, the egg-shaped retort, the female womb. Thomas Vaughan, alchemist and mystic, back in 1622 to 1666, described the sun and the moon as 2 equal peers, the consummation of their marriage as a total unity resulting in the nurturing of their seed in the womb of the earth. Quote, there is in every star and in this elemental world a certain principle which is the bride of the sun. These 2 in their coition do emit semen, which seed is carried to the womb of nature, but the ejection of it is performed invisibly and in a sacred silence, for this is the conjugal mystery of the heaven and earth, their act of generation, a thing done in private between particular males and females. But how much more think you between the 2 universal natures? Know therefore that it is impossible for you to extract or receive any seed from the sun without this feminine principle, which is the wife of the sun. Know then for certain that the magician sun and the moon are 2 universal peers, male and female, a king and queen regents, always young and never old. These 2 are adequate to the whole world and co-extended through the whole universe. The one is not without the other, God having united them in his work of creation in a solemn sacramental union. It will then be a hard and difficult enterprise to rob the husband of his wife, to part those asunder whom God has put together, for they sleep both in the same bed, and he that discovers the one must needs see the other. End quote. What fate did these differing images of nature meet as the scientific revolution began to mechanize the world view? Both pastoral art and Aristotelian philosophy saw the female sex as passive and receptive. Pastoral imagery could easily be incorporated into a mechanized, industrialized world as an escape from the frustrations of the marketplace. The pastoral had been an antidote to the ills of urbanization in ancient times, and it continued to play that role in the commercial revolution. It became particularly significant as an image dictating the transformation and cultivation of the wilderness in American culture. Explorers of the New World, who described the scenery as a lovely garden fragrant with flowers, brightened by the sounds of marvelous new and beautiful birds, provided an impetus for settlement across the Atlantic. The cultivation of a bountiful Mother Earth helped to hasten the disruption and exploitation of new and virgin lands. The Aristotelian and Platonic conception The passivity of matter could also be incorporated into the new mechanical philosophy in the form of inert dead atoms, constituents of a new machine-like world in which change came about through external forces, a scheme that readily sanctioned the manipulation of nature. The Neoplatonic female soul, the internal source of activity in nature, would disappear, to be replaced by carefully contrived mechanism of subtle particles in motion. The idea of the androgynous equality of male-female principles would eventually become more clearly articulated as the principle of the dialectic, either as the unity of opposites in idealism or as the struggle of the opposites in dialectical materialism. I will have occasion to note its progress in several social and philosophical contexts as the struggle for equality against social hierarchy continued. Uh, oh. You want to stop there? Or do you want to go on for one more?
We could do one more. It's not even one.
Okay.
Even the
Okay,
Bible
so-
says stuff like that, like there is no marriage or male or female in heaven. Interesting. Yeah, that is interesting.
All right.
I feel like
So,
nobody knows what heaven looks like, though. I mean, that's the point, right? And anybody who claims a crazy thing like that is clearly a lunatic.
or that there even is a heaven that exists.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's not even
Yeah.
established that such a place is a place to know what it is.
Yeah.
And if it were, it would probably be incomprehensible, like to like mundane. What?
Well, the way that I see it, that's the problem too, is that you're building upon a castle made out of sand. It's going to fall apart because that's not a foundation of the basis which you can apply actual reality to, because
You're
it's
right.
not.
You
It's based
can't
on faith.
reality test something like that.
Exactly. Which
But like,
which to me seems implausible to actually exist because there is no proof. So
right.
if you take that away, the way I see it is that we are all just matter and we get recycled. There's no heaven because we literally just die, our brain stops working, but then we decompose and we actually form into different matter and material for another use. We're recycled. And that's fine because that makes us part of everything, which is, I think, really something you should be considering when looking at sort of the philosophical ideals of the material earth, is that we are all literally the same thing, just repurposed and recycled continuously.
Right.
And that's okay. That there doesn't need to be anything more than that. I think that's really kind of cool. It's the circle of life. I'm sorry.
How dare you put Elton John in my head?
I'm so sorry. Well, anyways, okay.
For some reason, it was the Elton John version that popped up too, not the movie version. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's so funny. Okay. I'll try to get that out of your head by going forward with this. Okay. The geocosm, the earth as a nurturing mother. Not only was nature in a generalized sense seen as female, but also the earth, or geocosm, was universally viewed as a nurturing mother, sensitive, alive, and responsive to human action. The changes in imagery and attitudes relating to the earth were of enormous significance as the mechanization of nature proceeded. The nurturing earth would lose its function as a normative restraint as it changed to an inanimate, dead physical system, which is what we see it as now, right?
Like, speak for yourself, but that's my disclosure of like ulterior motives here.
Yeah, right. The macrocosm theory, as we have seen, likened the cosmos to the human body, soul, and spirit with male and female reproductive components. Similarly, the geocosm theory compared the earth to a living human body with breath, blood, sweat, and elimination systems. For the Stoics, who flourished in Athens during the 3rd century BC after the death of Aristotle, and in Rome through the 1st century AD, the world itself was an intelligent organism. God and matter were synonymous. Matter was dynamic, composed of two forces, expansion and condensation. The former directed outward, the latter inward. The tension between them was as the inherent force generating all substances, properties, and living forms in the cosmos and geocosm. Zeno of Citium in circa 304 BC, and M. Tullius Cicero from 106 to 43 BC, held that the world reasons, has sensation, and generates living rational beings. Quote, the world is a living and wise being, since it produces living and wise beings, end quote. Every part of the universe and the earth was created for the benefit and support of another part. The earth generated and gave stability to plants, plants supported animals, and animals in turn served human beings. Conversely, conversely, human skill helped to preserve these organisms. The universe itself was created for the sake of rational beings, gods and men, but God's foresight ensured the safety and preservation of all things. Humankind was given hands to
There's that
transform.
male ego again. They're always
Yep,
assuming that man is
exactly,
rational.
exactly.
Oh my God, no. No,
And
no.
listen
You
to
should
this,
never
listen to this.
assume that man is rational. That's how you die.
Yeah, but see, we are rational because they gave us rationality. That's why we can do these things without having to really think about what the consequences are, because we were given these things to do that. How do I know this?
Yeah.
There's no reason why I can
So
confirm
now
it.
we're back to the idea that because you have a thought, you should have that thought.
Yeah,
Just because you can does not mean you should. No.
The very next sentence, yeah, exactly. You'll see that humankind was given hands to transform the earth's resources and was given dominion over them. Timber was to be used for houses, and ships, soil for crops, iron for plows, and gold and silver for ornaments. Each part and imperfection existed for the sake and ultimate perfection of the whole. You mean for yourself? That they all serve you? Sure, buddy. Justifying something that's not valid. That's what
It's
you're
easy
doing.
to believe the system works when you're at the top, right?
Right? Yeah. The living character of the world organism meant not only that the stars and planets were alive, but the earth too was pervaded by a force, giving life and motion to the living beings on it. Lucius Seneca, from 4 BC to 8 to 65 AD, a Roman Stoic, stated that the earth's breath nourished both the growths on its surface and the heavenly bodies above by its daily exaltations. Quote, how could she nourish all the different roots that sink into the soil in one place and another, had she not abundant supply of the breath of life? All these heavenly bodies draw their nourishment from materials of earth, and are sustained by nothing else than the breath of the earth. Now the earth would be unable to nourish so many bodies, unless it were full of breath, which it exhales from every part of it day and night. End quote.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we were saying about how sometimes these old books are really prescient, and sometimes they're really not. Whoever that guy was really off base.
Yeah. The earth's springs were akin to the human blood system. Its other various fluids were likened to the mucus, saliva, sweat, and other forms of lubrication in the human body, the earth being organized. Quote, much after the plan of our bodies, in which there are both veins and arteries, the former blood vessels, the latter air vessels, so exactly alike is the resemblance to our bodies in nature's formation of the earth, that our ancestors have spoken of veins, springs, of water, end quote. Just as the human body contained blood, marrow, mucus, saliva, tears, and lubricating fluids, so in the earth there were various fluids. Liquids that turned hard became metals, such as gold and silver. Other fluids turned into stones, bitumens, and veins of sulfur. Like the human body, the earth gave forth sweat. Quote,
Can I just
there's
say
often
I'm genuinely disappointed in ancient man and medieval
yeah,
man even. For not having taken this to its logical conclusion. Therefore, the earth also has four humors that need to be balanced, right? Where's our ancient ecological humor balancing movement? Come on, you guys, what are you doing?
yeah. Quotes. There is often a gathering of thin, scattered moisture like dew, which from many points flows into one spot. The dowsers call it sweat because a kind of drop is either squeezed out by the pressure of the ground or raised by the heat. End quote. Leonardo da Vinci enlarged the Greek analogy between the waters of the earth and the ebb and flow of human blood through veins and heart. Quote, the water runs from the rivers to the sea and from the sea to the rivers, always making the same circuit. The water is thrust from the utmost depth of the sea to the high summits of the mountains, where finding the veins cut, it precipitates itself and returns to the sea below, mounts once more by the branching veins, and then falls back, thus going and coming between high and low, sometimes inside, sometimes outside. It acts like the blood of animals, which is always moving, starting from the sea to the heart and mounting to the summit of the head. End quote. The Earth's veinous system was filled with metals and minerals. Its veins, veinlets, seams, and canals coursed through the entire Earth, particularly in the mountains. Its humors flowed from the veinlets into the larger veins. The Earth, like the human, even had its own elimination system. The tendency for both to break wind caused earthquakes. Break wind. In the case of the former, and another type of quake in the latter. Quote, the material cause of earthquakes is no doubt great abundance of wind or store of gross and dry vapors, and spirits fast shut up, and, as a man would say, imprisoned in the caves and dungeons of the earth, which wind or vapor seeking to be set at liberty, and to get them home to their natural lodgings in a great fume, violently rush out, and as it were break prison, which forcible eruption and strong breath causeth an earthquake. End quote.
And then there's
Its
stuff like
bowels,
that that's like kind of close, because if by wind you mean kinetic energy, then
yeah, right. Which makes sense because really we're all just recycled material from Earth. So yeah, but I love how he like conceives of farting, breaking wind, earthquake.
hey, it's just a reproductive like side effect, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Its bowels were full of channels, fire chambers, glory holes.
Oh no.
The word glory hole just took me out.
Oh no. Yeah. That's then this is reading old stuff. The older you get, the worse it is. Language has been so incredibly sexualized. We don't even think about
I
like
know.
there's whole reams of words we're not allowed to use anymore because they're just.
Yeah. Okay. Its bowels were full of channels, fire chambers, glory holes, and freezers through which fire and heat were emitted, some in the form of fiery volcanic exhaltions, others as hot water springs. The most commonly used analogy, however, was between the female's reproductive and nurturing capacity and the mother's earth's ability to give birth to stones and metals within its womb through its marriage with the sun. In his De Rerum Natura of 1565, the Italian philosopher Bernardino Telesio referred to the marriage of the two great male and female powers. Quote, we concede that the sky and the earth are not merely large parts of the world's universe, but are of primary, even principal rank. They are like mother and father to all of the others. End quote. The earth and the sun served as mother and father to the whole of creation. All things are, quote, made of earth by the sun, and that in the constitution of all things, the earth and the sun enter respectively as mother and father, end quote. According to Giordano Bruno, every human being was, quote, a citizen and servant of the world, a child of Father, Sun, and Mother Earth, end quote. A widely held alchemical belief was the growth of the baser metals unto gold in womb-like matrices of the earth. The appearance of silver in lead ores or gold and silver assays was evidence that this transformation was underway. Just as the child grew in the warmth of the female womb, so the growth of metals was fostered through the agency of heat, some places within the earth's crust being hotter and therefore hastening the maturation process. Quote, given to gold, silver, and other metals was the vegetative power whereby they could also reproduce themselves. For since it was impossible for God to make anything that was not perfect, he gave to all created things with their being the power of multiplication, end quote. The sun acting on the earth nurtured not only the plants and animals, but also, quote, the metals, the broken sulfuric, bituminous, or nitrogenous rocks, as well as the plants and animals. If these are not made of earth by the sun, one cannot imagine of what else or by what other agent they could be made. Quote, several theories accounted for the growth of metals and minerals. In the Aristotelian theory, the earth gave off exhalations under the influence of the sun's warmth. From the dry exhalations grew stones, from the wet metals, both being formed within the earth or on its surface. 16th century theories held that minerals grew from a combination of celestial influences, primarily the sun, and a formative power within the earth. In the liquid seed theory, the earth was a matrix or mother to the seeds of stones and minerals. The seeds of minerals and metals fermented water, transforming it into a mineral juice and then into the metal itself. Stones were generated from their own seminal principles or seeds, thereby preserving their species. Suitable nooks and crannies within the earth formed matrices or wombs for the nurturing development of the infant seed. Neither the air nor the bodies of plants and animals were suitable mothers. Only the rocks on the edges of ore veins, and special crannies in the Earth's crust could act as matrices. Jerome Cardan in 1550 and Bernard Palissy in 1580 believed that metals reproduced by liquid seeds deposited by water. Others set forth the thesis that mineral juices were formed into metals by degrees, expanding and taking on new matter until they grew into visible metals. A third theory, the lapidifying stone-forming juice theory, hypothesized a fluid or juice that circulated through the Earth's body in its veins and cracks and pores beneath its surface, just as blood ebbed and flowed within the human body. The succus lapidus. Oh, hold on, stupid fucking neighbors are fucking using machines to cut shit. Doing something. Okay, where was I? This succus lapidus, combined with the principles of heat and cold, was the origin of stones and minerals. The mineral or stony matter was held in solution by the liquid succus until it evaporated out by the action of heat or deposited its matter through the action of cold. The Earth's womb was the matrix of mother, not only of metals but also of all living things. Paracelsus compared the Earth to a female whose womb nurtured all life. Quote, woman is like the earth and all the elements. In this sense, she may be considered a matrix. She is the tree which grows in the earth, and the child is like the fruit born of the tree. Woman is the image of the tree. Just as the earth, its fruits and the elements are created for the sake of the tree and in order to sustain it, so the members of woman, all her qualities and her whole nature exist for the sake of her matrix, her womb. And yet woman in her own way is also a field of the earth and not at all different from it. She replaces it, so to speak. She is the field and the garden mold in which the child is sown and planted. End quote. The earth in the Paracelsian philosophy was the mother or matrix giving birth to plants, animals, and men. The image of the earth as a nurse, which had appeared in the ancient world in Plato's Timaeus and the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus, was a popular Renaissance metaphor. Thank you. Damn, these words.
I was not expecting her to go so hard into the Gnosticism and all of that. That's really weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
okay.
it's something that was a thought, what people thought, right? So
it's kind of
necessary. But
I love the philosophy.
It's interesting to go through all the sort of different ideas and perceptions back in the history. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's just like, okay, like Caliban and the Witch kind of was very political, and this one seems more philosophical. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't really, it's examining the philosophy, but I don't really,
it's
not trying to take on that philosophy and expand on it. Yeah,
no, it's the emphasis.
Examining and giving you the idea of the different perceptions based on the language and the usage and the ideas that were perceived back then, and how they're going to all accumulate together to create this mechanistic theory, which we have now through the times of scientific revolution and the industrialization, right?
I'm just observing that I think this book and that book are telling the same story from slightly different perspectives. That's all.
Yeah, actually, yeah, definitely. And she does go into the witch. I know she goes into the witches too. That period, a little. Bit.
Inevitably,
so,
hooray!
Yeah, one of those chapters. So we're gonna get there. We're gonna have that real connection soon. According to 16th century alchemist Basil Valentine, all things grew in the womb of the earth, which was alive and vital and the nurse of it all. Quote, the quickening power of the earth produces all things that grow forth from it, and he who says that the earth has no life makes a statement flatly contradicted by facts. What is dead cannot produce life and growth, seeing that it is devoid of the quickening spirit. This spirit is the life and soul that dwell in the earth and are nourished by heavenly and sidereal influences. This spirit is itself fed by the stars and is thereby rendered capable of imparting nutriment to all things that grow and of nursing them as a mother does her child while it is yet in the womb. If the earth were deserted by the spirit, it would be dead. End quote. Cambridge Platonist Henry Moore referred to the 16th century doctrine of the earth as a nurse and the possibility of its going dry and becoming sterile. Quote, for though we should admit with Cardan and other naturalists that the earth at first brought forth all manner of animals as well as plants, and that they might be fastened by the navel to their common mother, the earth, as they are now female in the womb. Yet we see she is grown sterile and barren, and her births of animals are now very inconsiderable. Wherefore, what can it be but providence, that while she did bear, she sent out male and female, that when her own prolific virtue was wasted, yet she might be a dry nurse or a officious grandmother to thousands of generations. Unquote. In general, the Renaissance view was that all things were permeated by life, there being no adequate method by which to designate the inanimate from the inanimate. So from inanimate from the animate. It was difficult to differentiate between living and non-living things because of the resemblance in structures. Like plants and animals, minerals and gems were filled with small pores, tublets, cavities, and streaks through which they seemed to nourish themselves. Crystalline salts were compared to plant forms, but criteria by which to differentiate the living from the non-living could not successfully be formulated. This was due not only to the vitalistic framework of the period, but to striking similarities between them. Minerals were thought to possess a lesser degree of the vegetative soul because they had the capacity for medicinal action and often took the form of various parts of plants. By virtue of the vegetative soul, minerals and stones grew in the human body, in animal bodies, within trees, in the air and water, and on the earth's surface in the open country. Popular Renaissance literature was filled with hundreds of images associating nature, matter, and the earth with the female sex. The earth was alive and considered to be beneficent, receptive, nurturing female. For most writers, there was a mingling of traditions based on ancient sources. In general, the pervasive animism of nature created a relationship of immediacy with the human being. An I-thou relationship in which nature was considered to be a person writ large was sufficiently prevalent in the ancient tendency to treat it as another human still existed. Such virtualistic imagery was thus so widely accepted by the Renaissance mind that it could effectively function as a restraining ethic. In much the same way, the cultural belief systems of many American Indian tribes had for centuries subtly guided group behavior toward nature. Smahola of the Colombian Basin tribes voiced the Indian objections to European attitudes in the mid-1800s. Quote, "You ask me to plow the ground. Shall I take a knife and tear my mother's breast? Then when I die, she will not take me to her bosom to rest. You ask me to dig for stone. Shall I dig under her skin for her bones? Then when I die, I cannot enter her body to be born again. You ask me to cut grass and make hay and sell it, and be rich like white men. But how dare I cut off my mother's hair?" End quote. In the 1960s, the Native American became a symbol of the ecology movement search for alternatives to Western exploitative attitudes. The Indian animistic belief system and reverence for the earth as a mother were contrasted with the Judeo-Christian heritage of dominion over nature and with capitalist practices, resulting in the tragedy of the commons, exploitation of resources available for any person's or nation's use. But as will be seen, European culture was more complex and varied than this judgment allows. It ignores the Renaissance philosophy of the nurturing earth, as well as those philosophies and the social movements resistant to the mainstream economic change that was to occur.
What?
Oh.
Rejecting all of Western thought isn't the answer?
Yeah.
Do I sound like a right-wing lunatic saying that? Ooh.
Well, it's like, yeah. Like, it's not like you have to reject everything. You just have to
No, but
realize
it's
the path
everybody
of the,
who's
of
like,
the transients, right? And what purpose and the motivation, right? Because
Mhm.
like I was saying before, like the Gnostics, yeah, I have to give them a little bit leeway. They were trying to at least kind of see this projection of a unity and like how similar, right? And if they're saying there's some good stuff in the Renaissance philosophy where it really does associate like a living and needing it to be a living being because we are recycled from it, which is almost the same as like
Yeah.
a lot of native tribes. It's
Mhm.
this sort of transient era of scientific revolution that really
is weird.
subsumed this idea of machine, right? And our control and dominion over it. And that comes from the Judeo-Christian sort of aspect and philosophy, right?
No, right.
But anyway, so that was the next break, by the way.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
So, yeah. And then
No, sorry.
that's about halfway through, so that's good. Because then
I
we can do part two.
am kind of biased in favor of the aspects of my own culture that I enjoy, and I really it pisses me off that like just liking anything about Western civilization has been become very right wing coded, and that just pisses me off.
I understand.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, but yeah, it just reminded me of that. I see a lot of that stuff lately.
Yeah.
Because YouTube doesn't. It's either confused that I, have right wing sympathies because I watch so much of that shit sometimes doing research, or is trying to make me have right wing sympathies. I can't tell which one it is.
Aw. Well, maybe it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, maybe it's trying to encourage me down the fascist rabbit hole, and I just refuse to fight.
Yeah. 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 So, how do you find it so far?
Well, I'm really enjoying it. I'm sorry. I thought I made the comments that occurred to me when they occurred to me. So yeah.
Yeah, no, you did. You did a lot of good comments, a lot of like aspects. You're like, that's shady. Why are you putting that like that?
Right.
Some of it,
And I'm just sitting here trying to make connections.
Went off into a whole other tangent to explain and justify something unjustifiable.
Right? Yeah, right.
That you don't have any solid basis to actually believe. You just projected it onto it to try to save face, I guess.
Well, or I genuinely do believe a lot of times people do this unconsciously.
I do think so too. But I also believe that, especially nowadays, that lots of what goes on is definitely consciously motivated.
Yeah. Well, and especially these days, there's less grace to give around because we're all supposed to know better.
They stand on the understandings of history and where there are places. Like I said before, they are very class conscious. People in an elite group, very class conscious. They know what they're doing.
That's funny. It's making me keep these. It made me review both of those comments. It's because they're all Christians. I always laugh at those people saying their forefathers' religion is Christian. You're of European descent. Your forefathers weren't Christian. They were pagan. Yeah, no. And that's only true of the entire world, Hello, I put a curse on you with...
Ew.
That's very on point. Thank you. I happily accept that. It's very funny. We were talking about the earth as a womb. Yes.
You know what that reminded me, though? That reminded me of the Etsy witches.
Yeah.
Did you pay for that? No.
Well, it's only textual percentages. So I'm sure it didn't cost much.
It didn't cost that much.
Because it's only in text. It's only textual.
Yeah, I know, but still, sorry, it didn't cost that much. You gotta keep that in mind. It didn't cost that much. Oy.
Are you saying you get what you pay for as the normal curses? That may be true. I don't know. I don't exactly do a lot of those. So.
That's funny. Fucking funny.
We've had some real gems in the comments today so far.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, Friday I think works better, at least for attracting people.
Yeah, definitely. I think so too. Which is interesting. I'm glad that you were able to. Did you actually read any of this Sweet Sea Mustard beforehand?
Good question. I was not able to.
We both didn't. So
I wasn't able to get around
before though, like years ago. So it's nice to come back to it. So because I still had a certain understanding of what the whole premise and the reason why it was even written, like the whole where it was going and the whole thought process behind it. But I didn't remember any sort of really
the specifics.
Very specific. Yeah, exactly. Not anything really specific. So it's good to always go back sometimes and just reread some of
Mhm.
those, like, what
Oh yeah.
that were standard in your understanding, but not really remembering what exactly was in it, right? So it's nice to go back and refresh your memory, I think.
Yeah, no, my youngest is getting ready to be a preteen. I stand on the threshold of revisiting everything I read 20 years ago at long last in the next
Yeah.
few years. I found the internet version and skimmed through some of it, but no, I didn't read a lot. LOL. Well, you did better than I did because I completely forgot I said I was going to do that. To be fair, I
Yeah,
was
I was gonna
working
go
on.
over the chapter again because it's been so long, and I didn't
Oh
have time.
no,
I was just so busy.
I left my map in the house. I have been working on a map all week, and like I say, I have this month's video like 50% done. So that's what I did with my week.
Yeah, I've been busy trying to reforest the park area behind my house, right? So
Oh my
I've been
god.
looking at different native trees and stuff to plant there. I got to get rid of all the holly, all of the invasive plants, so I can plant it
Right.
there, so that I can help with the whole invasive species that I'm trying to get rid of in the park. Since of course no one's doing it, the parks and all that from the government, they're not doing shit with it. They don't do shit. And yeah, called and called, don't give a shit. And so I'm trying to get that established so that also when when winter comes along and fall, it
Mhm.
doesn't flood, because that's what ends up happening, because we've got beavers down there and they keep poking the goddamn beaver dams with holes. And so the beavers need to fill it, so they keep taking down the fucking trees. And now it's starting to a point where it's going to start flooding people's houses. So annoying. I hate it here so bad.
Wow.
I'm like, and because no one's fucking I keep calling and not getting anywhere with these fucking people. I've been left to do it myself because I really
Mhm.
want it to be a nice place for, in the backyard where all the animals have nowhere to go, because you've taken down all the parks and all the trees and their habitat around here. They've all accumulated in this little tiny space and they're trying to survive here. So I'm trying to keep a
Oh
little
my
bit of
god.
habitat available. Fuck.
Yeah. How awful.
I know and it's just me, nobody else. I'm like, oh, I'm too old for this, but I gotta do it. I have
Oh,
to. I've got blue heron, I've got owls, I've got bats, I've got woodland ducks, I've got loons, I've got fish,
wow.
I've got beavers, I've got
Prime
raccoons, I've got
example why we
deer,
need to work with nature, not against it. That's right. That's right.
right? Yeah. So I'm trying to get that established, because also all the invasive plants too is just horrendous, because everyone's buying plants that don't belong here and they're letting it like overtake the whole back forest area because they haven't maintained their garden and made it so that it doesn't, encroach. But they've
Yep.
encroached it, so now we got all these invasive plants I'm trying to get rid of. It's a big job. So I haven't had time to read the first chapter. It's my
Hey, you
excuse.
just read it just now. You're good.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, that sounds like a lot.
It is a lot, but I'm trying to get there one foot at a time. Just do it without trying to think too heavily on all that needs to be done. Just do it one
Hmm.
step at a time, as much as I can, and
Hmm.
not stress about that too much, and just go with the flow. Because all I can do is help to try to restore it, and help it along so that it can stabilize itself, so that there's a place for all the wildlife that was around here at the different parks that they took down and took over to like
Yeah,
actually live.
that's really
So
sad.
yeah. On that sour
Um,
note.
yeah, well, and that's just so. I wish I could like come help you with that. That's exactly my kind of project. I love that kind of shit. That sounds
Yeah.
fun and like
It
genuinely
would be fun
fun.
if there was more people willing to do that with me and contribute, but
Yeah.
I didn't. To be fair, I haven't pursued that in the community. I haven't tried to, put that notion out there
Oh,
to come help. But I mean, I've had so much trouble with the park rangers and shit
yeah.
that should be, that are actually supposed to be doing this, and they're making
Right.
things worse. That
Well, maybe
I'm
there's.
like, ugh, what?
I don't know. You could at least look, put some feelers out, see if anybody's interested in
Yeah, I
helping.
really
That's not a
should.
bad
I really
idea.
should see what I could do, and maybe there's another way to approach it to get like some help for
Yeah.
with all that work down there from the government. I don't know. I have to look into it more, but
Mm.
yeah, it's super demoralizing trying to get them to actually do their jobs, and
Right.
they have no no fucking. They don't even phone me back when I call them. They say they're going to, but they never fucking do. And this has been going on for years. Oy.
Oh my god. Or I
Yeah.
wish I could just transplant you here because this is like a giant park. This place, if you can't, this place is irrepressible.
Yeah. Ugh. But anyways,
You see what's down the hill from me. Look at that.
huh?
You can see what's down the hill from me.
Yeah. Look at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I
There's
love
this
that.
whole woodland down there that like
I love
is
that.
yeah, I love it too.
Because
It's
I
so
mean, I've spoken on this before that for my sanity, literally for my sanity, in the summer, I'm off. I'm off in the booth. I'm off in the forest. I'm like, get the fuck away from this stink of a fucking city. The fucking pollution, the urbanization, all the fucking people, all the garbage, all the cement. I need to get lost, and like that is what saves my sanity. To be honest, if I didn't have that,
on that
I'd
note,
go
we're gonna go get
insane.
my bug spray real quick because I just found a tick on my arm. So
Oh, a tick. Ew.
yeah, on my arm for fuck's sake. Like what the
Oh,
come on.
puppy. It's gone so big.
Yeah. He's 6 months old now. So anyway, apologies if there's an interruption. I'm gonna head out to the shed and get my bug spray because I don't know.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I'm not a fan of ticks. Not a fan of ticks.
No. It was just a little plain brown one, not the white one with the white. Oh god, it hadn't actually bit me yet either. It was just kind of sitting there. I just looked down and like, hello.
Did it bite you?
No,
Okay, good.
no. But like, what the fuck? On my arm, on my foot, like right here.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Do you guys have a lot of like tick? Is it like sort of date like
No, not
climate where you get a lot of that shit? Because
not
there's
so
certain
much.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm just that's.
Because I know that here in Canada, where I with the climate and all the environment, and all that, there are places you have to be very, very careful of the amount of ticks that are there make sure that you're definitely not going to. You can
Well,
definitely
and
watch out for them. Basically,
my
be aware.
yard is not exactly the deep bush.
Yeah,
You know,
that's the thing.
this
Yeah, so that's weird. That's
area
like,
here
there are a
was
lot of ticks in
recently.
that area because like you were just sitting at your house. You don't have like a bunch of like
Like I just ripped all this area up. There's no bush over here. There's not even any old weeds over here. I ripped it all up. It's all dirt.
See, that's
Look
what I
at
was
that.
thinking. Like, is this normal?
No, this is not. Where the fuck did it come from? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know,
It's
man.
like my sweater. I don't. And maybe I need to wash my sweater. I don't know. Doesn't bode well for the season. Holy shit. I'll get my legs too. I need to buy some more of this stuff this weekend, apparently.
Yeah. Well, I've never been bitten by a tick, but I know like what it does.
Right.
I know that what you got to do to get rid of it because like got to be really careful. It can give you Lyme disease.
Right. That's what really worries me. Or shit. What's the one that makes you sensitive to beef? How horrifying.
Yeah, like just not good. And the fact that like you got to be careful when taking them out because if you don't, what they do is they detach their head.
Right.
And if
I've
you
never
don't get the
seen
head
that.
with it, it stays in there, and that's what causes a lot of the problems, right? Because it gets those diseases and shit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they spread Lyme disease through their bite, not their head. But I have never, I've never actually seen like a detached head tick. I've never seen that. But maybe we just have never.
Depending on how burrowed it is, you might not see it. That's the thing. And then it just gets left in there. Because you can't just pull it out, right? You have to like, especially if like they've already bitten and have been eating a little bit and they start to get better. What you do is one of the ways you do is you get a pin and you heat the tip of it and pierce it so that you get the head with it and then take it out when you twist it. it's this whole thing that you can do if you whole method that you can do by yourself to do that. But it's always scary to me. Like, what if you still don't get the head? Like,
Oh, it's horrifying.
yeah.
Chicks
So
can
I'm
be
not.
very nasty. It's okay. We have to defend ourselves from nature within reason. Yeah, right. Exactly. Nature is like not your friend,
No, it's just
and
well.
that's like where I get so just like that whole idea of her as like the comforting maternal figure, like
I know, right?
so
But really,
self-serving.
it's just
No, oh my god.
what nature is just a processes of like evolution and recycling, right? And just continuously. The reason why ticks and all this shit exists is so that we don't overpopulate. So our intelligence has created a situation where we are able to fend off a lot of like the scary, very chaotic, sort of dangerous aspect of that nature, but that the fact that we don't realize that if we overpopulate and we don't like this idea of like having large families and that kind of control over that and that
Mm-hmm.
dominion over those resources, we eventually will all end up dying from that as well because we do live on a finite planet.
Mm-hmm.
So
Because you exhaust the resources, right?
exactly right. That's all. That should
Mm-hmm.
be obvious to anyone. And of course, it's not. But I don't understand how that is.
I don't.
But yeah, so
I
the fact
don't.
that if we are able to at least give women the autonomy back to themselves and not have this ideology push that they need to produce and push out babies all the time, then
Right.
we can regulate that right through that
Mm-hmm.
that kind of population. But of course, empire has different motivations to it. They want certain amount of people for in population control so that they maintain their empire.
Right. And just this capitalist patriarchy is a sickness, and this book is just reiterating that
Oh
once
yeah,
one more time.
yeah, it's a good one. It's definitely a good one.
No,
I'll
yeah,
give you
it's
that.
a good book. It's a good book. And it's
And
it's
I will say that after we do this, if you wanted to, because this one's a really good one too, and I always sing it praises, and I don't really know hardly anyone who's read it,
okay. I'm
is
gonna
this one.
try and sit back on my sofa like holy shit.
Yeah. But the one that I always sing praises of, and I always suggest people to read it, and I don't know if anyone that I know actually took that up and read it themselves, is this one because it goes through a lot of
Oh.
certain aspects of our culture, which is creating like such a dystopian future, and the sort of
Mhm.
ideas and put forth and put out there that doesn't allow us to sort of face reality, and that's even through the liberal understanding of like environmentalism or ecology as well as the right wing, right? So
Mhm.
it really encompasses both aspects as being
Mm.
very fundamentally detrimental to our just learning to understand the reality and get grounded in that way
Mhm.
before so that we can encompass moving forward. But anyways, yeah, so this one's a really great book if we wanted to read this afterwards too. That could be
It's an amazing
something to
title.
think about. What?
It's a great title.
Yeah, The Shock of the Anthropocene.
Mhm.
Yeah, and this is a translated version. The original is actually French.
Mhm.
So this was a French academic sort of go through. But like here, hold on. Just to show you what is here. It's gotten it's falling apart. So
Mm.
it talks about like what's in a word, and it goes through the different environmental humanities within the modern era, and how we've taken this construction of this sort of ecological position and the environmental movement, and how it's been constructed in the perception that this is new knowledge when really there's a long history of understanding the developments of environmental degradation
Mhm.
way back, and death act and the idea that this is just something new that we've sort of um just now understood is a myth, and it's a history to try to justify our what we've done when really it's not, and it's not something that is benevolent, like, oh, we just didn't understand, like creating this fantasy that we didn't know what we were doing, because
Mm.
there's history on this shit. There's a
Yeah.
whole history on this shit, right? Yeah, what
Yeah.
histories for the Anthropocene? Yeah, when it goes through all the different, different processes of Earth and how our perception of it is going to be detrimental if we are sort of mystified and led down a false history of our own action within it, kind of a thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, what histories for the Anthropocene? So yeah, we go through Thermocene, which is the political history of CO2, the Thanatocene, which is the power and ecocide, going through that aspect, and then Phagocene, which is consuming the planet, Phronocene, grammars of environmental reflexivity, Egnocene, which is externalizing nature, economizing the world, Capitalocene, a combined history of Earth system and world systems, Polymocene, resisting the deterioration of the Earth since 1750. Right? So
Okay.
yeah, so it goes through the different social because like say
Ages
with
of
scientific
society,
revolution,
basically.
say take the Luddites or whatever, try like
Yeah.
resisting sort of, and the degradation of what was happening in Europe before, as there was the Atlantic a transatlantic movement towards the New World, right? And the
Hmm.
reason, one of the pushes being the fucking environmental degradation of Europe at that times, and all the deforesting and all the different plundering of and exploitation that had occurred and was understood. And the philosophy is talking about how we're able to, in our own hands, remake our own environment, and that is a good thing. And try to get that philosophy out there, right? So it goes through all that. So it's a really great book.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah,
Nice.
that's just something to think about.
Oh yeah, no, that one sounds good too. Sounds
I've got
right
a
in
lot of
line.
books.
No,
Yeah.
I know, but like really the challenge is we're sort of trying to set up like a curriculum almost, like on the fly, you know?
Oh yeah.
So it's I'm trying to think how like one book connects to the next, you know. Last year
Yeah.
we did that so well I can't even keep the two of them apart in my head anymore.
Well, that's the thing, which is great with all my books, is that a lot of them do connect.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's just one of them. I had it right here, and I looked over like, oh yeah, that was a good one. I always try to recommend it to people. So even if we didn't get in, you out there watching right now, that's something to look out for. That's a good book. I recommend it.
Brea Sweet Sea Monster, sorry, said that she took a screenshot of it, so look it up later.
Oh, good! Yay!
That's awesome.
That fills me with so much happiness.
Yeah,
That
good shit.
satisfies me.
And so next week's topic is nihilism.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah.
This
In case
is gonna
anybody.
be interesting. Interesting. I'm probably gonna have a lot to say on this when I see it.
Yeah.
But
And it's if you look up Britt Hartley, No Nonsense Spirituality, her video about the existential elk is what I'm going to be responding to.
yeah.
Because I don't know how other people structure their fucking video essays. They just pick a topic and like write shit and talk for 25 minutes. I don't know how to do that. So I'm still making response videos. Essentially, I'm still doing essentially the same shit. I'm just responding to completely different stuff
Well, I think that's a good thing
than I
to do.
used to do.
Because then what you could do is you could showcase the perception that you want to actually deter, and then or at least confront, and then provide answers that contradict what they're saying, and give your own answers which make more sense in a logical sort of aspect.
Right, and I feel
Or
like
at
it
least ask
adds.
questions about it, about why, if that's illogical, what is really what is that definition or something, or give your own take. I don't know.
It brings me back to what I said at the beginning about how limitations can set you free. Because I choose their video that I want to respond to based on how much I yell at the screen while it's playing the first time. And or how much it follows me around thereafter,
Yeah, that's good. See, that's a good way to piece out what you want to go off on that topic on.
And like her existential elk video, her existential elk video has haunted me a bit because she seems so like it made me so sad, not for the elk, but for the people who like feel this way.
Yeah.
And it's made me, like, it's come up just kind of in my mind several times since I watched it the first time, and I'm like, all right, I guess maybe I'm doing this one.
I think response video is a great way to like sort of take what's out there and question it or confront it or
Great.
applaud it or
But
whatever.
within a really strict framework, like this is the video I'm responding to. These are the topics that are brought up in it, and this is what we're going to be talking about. So I don't have to be like trying to. I like to play like Magpie and build my nest out of all the shiny things. And like that doesn't work if you're trying to write an essay. People don't understand what you're talking about.
I just think that it's really effective way to, especially if you.
Yeah. Oh my God. I don't want to say about her. That's a good point.
Hello?
She did do that. Hello?
Okay, sorry, I was offline.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so
oh my God.
break down why it was illogical and project the reasons why it's illogical and showcase an opinion that is different that actually sustains itself through logic.
Oh my God. I don't want to say I'd forgotten about her, but I'd kind of forgotten about her. I haven't thought about her in a long time. And she was like the original inspiration for my like creating a YouTube channel in the first fucking place.
Yeah, see? And she did response videos, so she did response reaction.
That's I should
except for
go
maybe
back
one or
and
two
watch.
videos.
Her old stuff is still up, isn't it? I should go back and watch some of her stuff.
Oh yeah, I got a whole playlist dedicated to her on my channel. And she was great.
May she rest in power.
Yep.
Mm-mm-mm.
I know, like, why Magdalene? No,
you're right. Oh.
She was really good at that response videos and really just being
right.
logical.
No, and she
and
really
not being super emotionally driven. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it's so emotionally driven by some of these other people that like feminists or whatever they want to call it, gender criticals, that you're just it loses all impact when you do that. You have to step back and not take things so personally, individually, personally, and go by just basic fact and logic, and not just start to come unhinged with trying to put decredit someone and then going so far the other way that you're in a different place than where you started.
Which, like, oh my God,
by your emotional,
somebody in Denmark, I think it was, published a study recently that said that after gender affirming treatment, they still need more mental health care than everybody else by like 50% plus.
Yeah, there was something that came out that really that came out from the trial studies of that CAS study or whatever.
Oh yeah.
That they made, and their tests and all that, and then the sort of like what they derived from it were so incomplete. It was so badly done.
Oh yeah, no, that was something else.
You cannot pass this because this science that you've done is not. You can almost call it not even science. Like, it was just so badly done. But now they're going back to the drawing board. But it's like, how long are you going to be experimenting on children, really?
Right.
That is
unethical. Right.
It is unethical already at the beginning, on the onset of this, because you're taking an ideology as its truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem, and that's why you cannot do it. Perform these scientific, tests that are going to be legitimate, because your assumption is illegitimate. Based on so you're not going to have that, but you're going to keep on going as if it is true. Like, eventually we're going to have to come to a realization that the assumptions are probably not correct.
Well, and I think there's a lot of people who have a lot wrapped up into that they're not able to come to that conclusion.
Yeah, because
or they feel unable to come to that conclusion. Yeah.
It was the sunk cost fallacy. Yeah.
But like sometimes it's not a fallacy. Like there are people who have their entire identities built on this idea. That in order to reconsider it, they would have to reconsider their entire lives.
Perceive a different idea, or just take everything out from your assumption because you put so much into it, so much of yourself, so much resources, thought, and your beliefs on the world, that to remove this false assumption you believe in. So you can't do that, or else you're leave starting from square one. That's a sunk cost fallacy. So
Well,
yeah,
it's
there's
just
people that are
cost
so
something.
involved in it, and they base their whole theories about themselves and life as itself in it, that to remove that would leave you desolate.
Right. Arguably, I think that like the complete and utter paradigm breakingness of that might be the kernel of truth behind the sunk cost fallacy. Because yeah, sometimes it's really detrimental to you to try and remove what you've invested in an idea. But
Yeah.
most of the time, it's not that deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify what I meant there. Because
No, I got you.
sometimes I don't think people are actually psychologically capable of it.
Yeah.
Not to give them like credit, but
I can see, I can sympathize with how hard that must be to come to a realization like that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like I don't understand. I do. The point though, is that it still doesn't make it right.
Yeah. No, like I say, I'm not trying to justify.
Unfortunately, the only justifiable thing to do is to come to that and accept that knowledge, or learn to deal with it. Learn to deal with it, because you can always rebuild. Like, that's the thing I know for me. I've had to, throughout the years, throw out my whole ideas of things that I thought were true, because nothing supported that reality. And it's hard to do, but it's just something that you just gotta have to do if you want to actually move forward, and actually, if you really actually do care about certain subjects, about certain realities, about the health and well-being of society, you're gonna have to just do it. Because
the more
if you're
I
just
think,
gonna hold on to this false belief just because you put so much of yourself and everything into it and your ideas into it, that's not going to do anything that helps you in the end, or anyone else. So if you truly are like being, if you truly are being honest about your position as doing it out of not like kindness or whatever.
hello. It looks like you're there. Are you there? Are you there? You can't trust your grit stats. All stats are going to be heavily biased with this stuff. Oh yeah, no, definitely. I've been rewatching her videos recently as well. Wow, that is funny. Oh my gosh. Looking forward to my new video. Awesome, thank you. I'm just taking the time to respond to your comments while she, I'm sure, is having technical difficulties, but we'll be right back. Yeah, they always bring up that argument. SRS, the sexual reassignment surgery, has been around for 50 plus years. If you still have inconsistent outcomes in high percentage rates of revisions, and it makes you sterile. Like, oh my goodness. I saw something, I think it was Sex Reality Bites has shared something recently about, wouldn't it be great if we just put to rest any idea that, like anybody who can't relax until parts of themselves removed with a knife or something, wouldn't it be nice if we could just get rid of that? Oh, it looks like I'm here by myself now. God damn it. Where'd she go? Just apparently some people find the idea of paradigm shifts themselves horrifying. That's the feel I get from somebody like Britt or Peter Zappa, the nihilists. That's what nihilism seems to stem from, at least what I'm gathering of it from this past couple weeks of research that I've been doing and listening to Britt, is that the idea of paradigm shifting, the idea of being able to like change your framework, just is horrifying on its face to a certain temperament of person, I suppose. And then they want to just throw up their hands and say, oh, well, if that doesn't mean anything, then nothing means anything. Oh, your phone died. Oh, okay. Thank you for letting me know what happened. I think we were getting ready to close it up anyway. I got shopping to do this week. I have a doctor's appointment to get my kid to at 3 o'clock. Message held for review. Again, I've been through so many paradigm shifts myself. Went from Christian to atheist to liberal to leftist, gender critical, around some. Right. To me, that just feels like personal growth, right? Like your paradigm that you have as a teenager is never going to be able to hold all of your adult life. Like that's not a personal failure. And just for fun, I'm throwing in a different take on paradigm shifting because to me, my little occult mind over here, it sounds like chaos magic. Okay. It sounds like, and the thing is, at the end of her video, Britt literally sits there and says, you know what? I'm not even a proponent of Zaffa's philosophy necessarily. I take from him. I take from Simone de Beauvoir. I take from da 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 da. I am a woman. I contain multitudes. And I'm like, okay, for one thing, that sounds like something that means something to you that you believe in right there. Weird there. Funny how that is. Secondly, this is like chaos philosophy, right? Where you're just going to use what suits you today, like that. I believe in the paradigm today that suits me. It's just so next time I'll be sure to have a fully charged. Yeah, you do that, doggone it. I'm gonna have to close this thing out myself. I don't know how I can do that. Excuse me. Because I have to go and try and get something for dinner before I have to pick this boy up so I don't have to go back over there later. But yeah, so just for extra fun, I'm comparing her also to somebody else who says basically the exact same thing, but in a positive life affirming way of how none of these paradigms are superior in meaning to like objectively to the other. Therefore, you can take switch them around, and it's just nihilism is just lazy, and that's what it was. Kat, you said something earlier about how you hate to be basically that you hate to be a downer. Things just suck so much. It's like that's actually one of my biggest pet peeves about people who consider themselves to be nihilists. Is that they always say that. Well, I wouldn't be so nihilistic if shit wasn't so bad. But the treatment of it as just an earnest, honest observation about the facts of reality, you guys. Stuff just sucks. Why won't you admit it? Maybe you're wrong, though. Maybe you're wrong. Have you considered that? That maybe some people do find actual meaning in things? Just a thought. It's very arrogant. And it's self-deprecating arrogance, which I think is like confusing to people. The arrogance of assuming that everything sucks. It's counterintuitive. That's why I'm an absurdist. Nice. Yeah. I tried to be an absurdist for a while, and then I ended up creating a paradigm for myself. I couldn't maintain it. Like my mind just has this heavy symbolism that it likes to work in. So I'm an author. I think that works out. Yeah, and I ended up being more of an existentialist. Where I tried to be an existentialist and create my own meaning, and then basically meaning came along and whacked me on the back of the head a couple of years ago, and I don't. This just sucks right now. Of course it is, but that doesn't make it meaningless. No, right? Yeah, exactly. It's like depression writ large. I am sad, therefore no one else is actually happy about anything. No, right? No, that doesn't. Anyways, so I find now that my existence is packed with meaning. For me, you know what I mean? It's the kind of thing where, gosh, I sure wish I could share it with everybody, but I'm pretty sure that that's not how that works. That my meaning for my life just doesn't work for everyone, which is frustrating, I admit. But them's the breaks, you know? So, but so then I listen to someone who feels that life has no meaning, not theirs, not anybody's, and I'm just like, well, I hate to say you're wrong about that, but I feel like you're wrong about that. But you know, just coming out and saying, "No, my life means something to me," is not very articulate. So I've chosen to go the other route and steel man the nihilist argument, and argue and take it, you know, and try and argue with it seriously. I'm sad, but I'm more mad than anything else. Yeah, you know what? Anger is like the positive of those two emotions, right? Anger is at least one more step away from hopelessness than sadness is, right? If you're angry, it means you feel like you might do something about it. So are you a Nietzschean person? You mentioned him earlier, and we talked a little bit about the Ubermensch rising above everything, which is frankly another one of those philosophies that feels really self-aggrandizing. So we've always been kind of suspicious of it as much as I do enjoy that idea of, you know, why do we need to seek external meaning, objective meaning, you know? And like I was saying, if you're just a strict materialist and you don't believe in God or any kind of afterlife or any kind of spiritual anything, then why are you worried about objective anything? Whose perspective is objective? Yours? And that's where people get into trouble, is they try to step into their role of the objective observer. They take God out of the equation to them, but somebody has to fill that role, and they try and fill it themselves, and that's just, I don't think that works real well. Anyways, I'm babbling now. You ladies are the MVPs. Thank you so much, both of you, for hanging out and for reading and all this. This is so cool. I have to go and get some shopping done and finish my video for next week so that we can watch it together. So I'm going to have to say goodbye. But I want you guys to say goodbye first, so I know you heard me. This is so funny. I quit smoking. I feel like I want to reach for something. And I know what it is. It's so funny. It's like deja vu. No, wait, I don't do that anymore, you know? It's not a craving. It's just this urge to like reach for something, you know? Like, well, I'm done with one thing. I better reach for my, you know, my little prize that I give myself for accomplishing things. Like I'm some kind of baby. Some things have meaning. Some things are meaningless. We as a species live to organize and categorize. So when something isn't obvious, they get upset. True. True. I think, you know, the idea of a universal meaning is very enticing to some kinds of people, you know, certain temperaments. I mean, Britt brings up in her video, like, you know, if you have truth as a high core value, then you're probably a nihilist. And I'm just like, yikes. Yikes. Thanks for another awesome stream. Thanks for checking in and hanging out. Exactly. Anger gives a meaning to the actions I take because my anger means something. No objective reality is reality external from you. It exists and the here and now has meaning. Yeah. And I guess just, you know, insisting that over and over again to somebody who's like, la, 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 nobody means anything, la, 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 is not very helpful, you know? So I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to come at it from a, like, it's still a bad metaphor, you know, elk antlers as existential dread, or like as aware, like antlers as a metaphor for awareness. Because spoiler alert, we immediately start talking about coping mechanisms, which are the elk cutting off its antlers, which of course elk can't fucking do. So we've already, once we get to the second part of our thought experiment, we've already demolished our goddamn metaphor, and it's just so stupid. you could tell that guy Zaffo was not a writer. So anyways, check back here on Friday for that. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye. Bye.